Welcome to the world of the Middle Ages, simple, quiet, and full of life. Today, we'll experience a day alongside the peasants who woke with the sunrise and ended their evening by the warm hearth. Before watching, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It really helps me create more stories. Sit comfortably, listen slowly, allow yourself to drift into that world, simple, yet filled with deep tranquility. Let's begin. A day in the life of a medieval peasant narrated in a calm, immersive tone for bedtime or relaxation. Part 1. Morning in the village. The first light of dawn creeps softly across the countryside. A pale mist lies over the fields, clinging to the damp earth, and the tall stalks of barley swaying gently in the breeze. In the distance, the faint toll of a church bell calls the village to another day of labor and quiet routine. For most peasants, the rhythm of life has changed little for generations. Their world is small, bounded by fields, forests, and faith. Yet within that narrow space, life unfolds with its own beauty and quiet dignity. In the low-thatched cottages that line the edge of the village, the day begins before the sun fully rises. Inside one such cottage, smoke curls lazily from the hearth. A woman kneels by the fire, coaxing the embers back to life with a few dry sticks. The smell of smoke and damp wool fills the room. Her husband stirs from his straw-filled mattress, rubbing the sleep from his eyes. Their children, still curled up under rough woolen blankets, begin to wake at the sound of crackling firewood. The family's home is simple, a single room shared by all. The floor is hard-packed earth, cool to the touch. Light filters through the gaps in the wooden shutters, drawing thin golden lines across the rough walls. A table of uneven boards stands near the hearth. A few wooden bowls, a jug of ale, and a heel of bread rest upon it. Breakfast is small, perhaps a crust of yesterday's loaf, dipped in warm ale or thin porridge. Meat is a rarity, a luxury reserved for holy days. Still, there is comfort in the simple meal, shared in silence before the long day's work begins. Outside, the air is cool and fresh. The village awakens slowly. The clucking of hens, the bleating of goats, the soft murmur of voices as neighbors greet each other on the path. Dogs bark in the distance. A rooster crows from a nearby fence post. Beyond the cottages, the fields stretch wide and endless, covered in the faint shimmer of morning dew. The man shoulders his wooden hoe and heads toward the strip of land he tills for his lord. Each peasant works a narrow portion of the manor's fields, land that does not belong to him, but upon which his family's survival depends. He walks barefoot along the muddy track, his feet sinking slightly with each step. The air smells of soil, grass, and smoke. It is the scent of his life, the scent of labor, of seasons turning endlessly one into another. As he reaches the field, the sun finally breaks through the mist, painting the horizon in soft gold. He pauses for a moment, leaning on his hoe, and looks at the light spilling across the land. For a brief instant, before the toil begins, the world feels still and sacred. Then, with a deep breath, he begins to work. The rhythmic sound of the hoe striking earth echoes softly through the valley, steady, patient, timeless. Back in the village, his wife tends to the home. She fetches water from the well, balancing a wooden bucket carefully on her hip. The water is cold and clear, reflecting the pale morning sky. She pours it into a clay jar near the hearth, then begins to spin wool by hand, her fingers practiced and steady. The faint hum of the spindle and the crackle of the fire blend into a quiet, familiar melody. Their children play nearby, chasing each other between the chickens and the low garden fence. They laugh, though even in their laughter, there is a kind of restraint, a quietness born from a world where life is not loud, but measured and patient. Soon, the oldest boy will be sent to help his father in the fields. The younger ones will gather firewood or tend the animals. Overhead, the sun climbs higher, burning away the mist. The landscape brightens, the greens more vivid, the soil darker and rich. The hum of bees drifts through the air, mingling with the distant clatter of cart wheels on the old road leading to the manor. From the church on the hill, the bell tolls again, marking the hour of prime, the morning prayer. Even those who cannot attend whisper a brief prayer where they stand, for strength, for harvest, for the grace to endure another day. In these moments, the peasant's life may seem humble, but it is filled with a quiet rhythm that ties him to the land, the seasons, and the sky. He lives close to the earth, and though his body aches from toil, there is a peace in knowing that every furrow, every seed, every sunrise carries the weight of generations before him. As the morning deepens into noon, the fields come alive with movement, men and women working side by side, the sun warming their backs, their hands blackened with soil. The day stretches long before them, but for now, under the open sky, life feels steady and certain. Part 2. Midday, and the field's morning hours pass slowly, marked by the steady rhythm of tools meeting earth. The sun climbs higher, burning away the last traces of mist. By now, the fields are alive with movement. Men and women bend over rows of barley, wheat, and oats. The scent of freshly turned soil mixes with the warmth of the sun, creating that familiar, grounding smell of life and work. For the peasant, the field is not just a place of labor, it is the center of existence. Here, seasons dictate survival. Every handful of seed sown in spring, every stalk cut in harvest, decides whether the family will eat through the winter or go hungry. The land is not theirs, yet they love it as if it were their own. Around midday, the sun blazes at its peak. The workers pause for their brief rest. There are no trees large enough to offer real shade, only the faint relief of a hedgerow or a cart turned on its side. The man sits upon the grass, wipes the sweat from his brow, and opens the small cloth bundle his wife prepared that morning. Inside, a piece of coarse bread, a wedge of cheese, perhaps an onion or two. Beside him, others do the same. No one speaks much. The quiet of the fields feels sacred in its stillness. The air shimmers with heat. Insects hum lazily. Somewhere nearby, a lark sings above the field, its song thin and clear against the summer sky. The men listen without comment, but in their hearts, perhaps, they feel a quiet joy, a fleeting reminder that beauty exists even in toil. Across the field, the Lord's steward rides by on horseback, his fine cloak brushing the side of the saddle. He surveys the work, his expression unreadable. To the peasants, he is both familiar and distant, a man of higher standing, yet not so far removed as the Lord himself, who rarely visits. The steward calls out a few words of instruction, his tone brisk, but not unkind. The peasants nod silently and return to their meal. Life under the feudal order is simple but unyielding. The peasant owes labor to his lord, several days each week spent tilling the domain, the land owned directly by the manor. The rest of the week, he tends his own small strips of soil. Taxes are paid not in coins, but in grain, eggs, or the sweat of one's hands. It is a system as old as memory itself, and though it may seem harsh, few imagine life could be otherwise. When the meal is finished, the man takes a long drink from his leather flask ale. Weak but cool. Water, after all, is not always safe to drink. He closes his eyes for a brief moment, feeling the sun against his face. Then, slowly, he rises again. The break is over. Work must continue until the shadows grow long. The sound of labor resumes, the thud of tools, the creak of wooden yokes, the soft murmur of voices carried by the breeze. A woman's laughter breaks the monotony for a moment, followed by a child's cry from the far end of the field. Life, even here, is not without its lightness. There are moments of warmth, of small jokes, of shared glances and weary smiles. As the afternoon wears on, clouds drift across the sky, promising perhaps a light rain later. The peasants welcome it. Rain cools the air and nourishes the earth. They look to the heavens often, reading the weather as one might read a sacred text. The sky is their calendar, their warning, their hope. From time to time, the village priest walks among the workers, offering a word of blessing. He carries with him a small cross of wood, and the smell of incense still clinging to his robes. He reminds them that their labor is service to God, that every furrow they dig is an act of devotion. The peasants nod, half listening, but there is comfort in his presence, a reminder that even the lowest life is part of a divine order. By late afternoon, the man's back aches, his hands raw and calloused, yet he continues, driven by habit, by necessity, by something deeper, the quiet endurance passed down from generations before him. Each strike of the hoe is not just labor, but legacy. The earth he tills has felt the hands of his father, his grandfather, and will one day feel the hands of his children. As the light begins to soften, the air cools, the fields take on a golden hue, the stalk swaying gently as if sighing with relief. The day's end draws near. Soon the bell will toll again, calling the peasants back to their cottages, to their evening meals, to rest beneath the thatched roofs of their small, steadfast homes. But for now, they keep working, slow, steady, patient. The land, the people, and the rhythm of their days blend into one endless song, a song of earth, sweat, faith, and time itself. Part 3. Evening in the villa. The sun begins its slow descent beyond the rolling hills. Shadows stretch long across the fields, the golden light softening to a deep amber. The tools grow heavy in the peasants' hands, and the day's final tasks are done. From somewhere far off, a bell rings, low and distant, calling the village home. The men and women gather their things, brushing the dust from their tunics. Their faces are tired but peaceful. There is a rhythm in this return, a quiet satisfaction that the day's work is complete. Bare feet tread the narrow paths back toward the cottages, where smoke already rises from the small chimneys. The air smells of wood and peat, of bread baking, of earth cooling under the night sky. Children run ahead, their laughter echoing through the dusk. A few geese waddle toward the pond, honking softly, dogs barking greeting, as the first stars begin to appear, faint, trembling lights scattered across the darkening blue. It is evening, and the village exhales. Inside the cottage, the hearth glows warmly. The woman stirs a pot suspended over the fire, a simple stew of barley, cabbage, and whatever small bits of meat were left from the week's market. The steam fills the small room, carrying with it the comforting scent of food and home. She moves quietly, her face lit by the flickering flame, shadows dancing across the rough wooden walls. The man enters, stooping slightly beneath the low doorway. He places his hoe by the wall, wipes his hands on his tunic, and sits upon the bench near the fire. For a moment, he says nothing, only watches the flames, lost in their soft, endless motion. The warmth seeps into his bones, easing the ache of the long day. Outside, the faint toll of the church bell sounds again, the hour of vespers. Some villagers make their way to the small stone church on the hill, candles in hand. Others kneel where they are, whispering quiet prayers. Their faith is not grand or learned. It is woven into every breath, every task, every moment of entrance. To live, to labor, to love one small corner of the earth. That, too, is devotion. The family gathers for supper. They eat from a single pot, passing bowls and bread between them. The fire crackles. The youngest child leans against her mother's arm, half asleep. Outside, crickets begin to sing, their steady rhythm blending with the night breeze that slips through the shutters. After the meal, the man takes a small tool and mends a broken handle. His wife hums softly as she spins wool. The children sit on the floor, playing with small sticks and pebbles, their voices hushed. It is a time of quiet work, of simple peace. The world outside fades into darkness, but inside, the glow of the hearth holds back the night. From the church hill, the bell rings one last time. Compline, the prayer before rest. Its sound drifts through the village like a blessing. The man sets aside his work. The woman covers the pot. The children yawn and climb into their straw-filled beds. A wooden cross hangs near the door. The man touches it gently and murmurs a few words of thanks, not for wealth, nor for ease, but for another day endured, for bread on the table, for the promise of tomorrow's dawn. The fire burns low. Sparks drift upward, fading into the dark rafters. The air is filled with soft sounds, the sigh of wind, the rustle of hay, the steady breathing of those asleep. Outside, an owl calls from the woods, its voice haunting and calm. The village rests, wrapped in the stillness of night. The stars, countless and silent, shine over the thatched roofs and sleeping fields. In their light, the small cottages look almost sacred, fragile yet eternal, like the lives within them. The land, the people, the sky, all bound together in the quiet eternity of another medieval night. Part 4. Night and reflection. Night has fully fallen over the village. The fields lie still beneath a blanket of mist, and the soft glow of the moon spills over the rooftops like silver dust. The air is cool now, carrying with it the faint scent of smoke and wild herbs. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barks once, then all is quiet again. Inside the cottages, the fires burn low, their light flickering across sleeping faces. The man and his wife rest side by side, their breaths slow and even. Between them, their youngest child curls like a small shadow beneath a woolen blanket. The floor is hard, the air cool, yet there is warmth in this closeness, in the quiet rhythm of a family at rest. Outside, the night is alive in its own quiet way. An owl calls softly from the woods. Frogs croak near the pond. The wind whispers through the trees, bending the tall grasses with gentle sighs. For those still awake, the watchman by the manor gate, the monk in the church tower, the sounds of the night are both comfort and reminder that life continues even in stillness. In the dark cottage, the man stirs, not yet asleep. His thoughts wander to the fields, to tomorrow's work, to the uncertain seasons ahead. Will the harvest be kind this year? Will the rains come when they are needed? He does not worrying loudly. Worrying, like hunger, is an old companion. Instead, he breathes deeply and watches the dim glow of the dying embers. He thinks of his father, of rough hands and tired eyes much like his own. He thinks of his children, sleeping beside him, and hopes they will grow strong, that the land will still hold them when he is gone. Such thoughts are not spoken aloud. In the peasant's world, reflection is silent, felt more than said, lived more than questioned. Above the village, the church bell hangs motionless now, its great iron heart stilled until dawn, yet the building itself seems to breathe, its stones damp with dew, its windows faintly gleaming in the moonlight. To the peasants, it stands like a guardian in the night, watching over their fragile peace. The world outside their small cottages feels vast and unknown. Kings, wars, and distant lands lie far beyond their horizon. But here, within the circle of fields and forest, life feels complete in its simplicity. They do not need to know the world to belong to it. The soil beneath them, the stars above, these are enough. Time moves differently in the dark. Minutes stretch like hours, and hours pass unnoticed. The man's eyelids grow heavy. The last spark fades from the hearth, and with it, his thoughts drift away, into dreams shaped by earth and sky. In his dreams, he walks once more through the fields at dawn. The wheat is high and golden. The air smells of rain and promise. He hears laughter, his children's voices carried on the wind, and the distant toll of the bell calling the village to life once more. It is a dream of peace, of continuity, of things that never truly end. Outside, the moon climbs higher. Its pale light rests upon the quiet roofs, the winding paths, the still pond where stars shimmer upon the surface. All is calm, all is enduring. The land sleeps, and in its sleep it remembers. Part 5. Dawn again. First hints of light appear on the horizon once more. The mist curls softly over the fields, and the cool morning air carries the scent of dew and damp earth. The village stirs quietly. Crows call from the rooftops. A dog pads across the yard, its paws silent on the soft soil daub from the cottages. Small lights appear as fires are rekindled. Smoke drifts lazily into the sky, blending with the soft pink and gold of the dawn. The family from the previous day begins again, stirring, stretching, waking with the same gentle rhythm that has guided them 4 generations. The man steps outside, feeling the chill of the morning up his hands and face. He breathes deeply, inhaling the scent of freshly turned soil, of herbs and wildflowers, of the village itself. In the distance, the faint toll of the church bell calls to prayer, as it has called for decades. The rhythm of life, steady and enduring, begins anew. Children run along the paths, their laughter mingling with the song of birds. The woman kneels by the hearth, preparing the morning meal, a simple bread, a thin porridge, nourishment for another day of labor. Everything seems unchanged, yet the world feels renewed. Light touches each corner, shadows retreat, and the fields shimmer with possibility. As the sun climbs higher, men and women move toward their tasks. The man lifts his hoe and begins to till the earth once more. His hands are calloused, his back aches, but he works with a quiet patience that mirrors the very rhythm of the land. Each furrow, each planted seed, each moment of labor is part of a cycle older than memory itself. Around the village, life unfolds slowly, Hens cluck softly, goats graze in the yard, and the faint murmur of voices drifts along the paths. The priest makes his way to the church, candle in hand, whispering prayers that carry on the wind. Every small action, every breath, is part of the world's quiet song, a song of earth, of sweat, of devotion, and of enduring hope. The day stretches before them once again, endless and familiar, yet within its simplicity lies a kind of beauty, the certainty of sunrise and sunset, of labor and rest, of generations bound to the land and to one another. The peasants live not in haste, not in fear, but in the measured pulse of life itself, and so the cycle continues, from dawn to dusk, from work to rest, from night to morning. The village breathes as one, timeless and enduring. The fields, the cottages, the hills, and the forests, all bathed in the soft light of a new day, remind those who live there that life, even in its humblest form, is rich with quiet wonder. The sun rises fully now, illuminating the world once more, and somewhere in that light, the peasant smiles, not for glory or reward, but for the simple fact that he belongs to the land, to the village, to the rhythm of days that have gone before and those yet to come.